Hi, I'm John Morris. I'm a tutor with Testive, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about getting the right mindset to confront the ACT science section. It is a unique section. For many people who take the ACT, it is their hardest section. It's understandable. The content can be tricky. You don't have a lot of time to do what you're asked to do. You have 35 minutes, that's 40 questions, plus 6 passages, which you ostensibly do have to read to some degree. So that's hard. Some students can do it, but they are few, and most can't. And even if they can get to a lot of them, it's getting them right that we kind of an issue. So whenever I talk to any student about how they should mentally think about the science section, I do something that's fairly unscientific. I tell them a story, a legend, actually. So about 3,000 years ago in Asia Minor, which is modern day Turkey, there was a kingdom called Faraja. Faraja had a very well-known king, famous far and wide. His name was Gordius. He lived to an extremely old age, about 90 years old, and he was famous far and around for being cunning and for being very bold. One day his courtiers came to him and said, "Great Gordius, who will be king of Faraja after you're gone?" Gordius had sons, they outlived all of them. So he thought about it. He thought, I want the man who comes after me as king to be someone like me, someone who's cunning and someone who is bold. So he devised a scenario. He took his great chariot to the center of the city of Faraja, the city-state, and he took the bridle from that chariot, something that was legendary, made of the thickest leather, inlaid with gold, laced with chain, and he tied the bridle, and thus the chariot, to the pillar in the center of town, with a knot of such ornate complexity that legend said, and this is a legend, that any person who stared into it for too long would be driven mad. Gordius pointed to his knot and said, "Any man who would undo my knot would become the new king of Faraja." Gordius went to sleep that night and did not wake up the next morning, and thus Faraja had no king, and many of them tried to undo his knot. They'd reach their fingers in, pull it apart just enough, think they were almost successful, and then that knot would just, almost by magic, snap shut. And thus Faraja, for a while, had no king, and soon became conquered by the Persian Empire from the east. It became a satellite kingdom for the tributary. Then one day, after about a year, a prince came from the west, from Macedon, was to northern Greece, at the head of a large army with a thirst to conquer. And the prince sent his messenger into Faraja with a very simple offer: submit, or he could be destroyed. And they sent the prince's messenger back to him with the story of Gordius's knot. The prince listened with interest, and then he came to the city under a flag of truce and parley, and went to the center of town and asked the courtiers to tell him the story of Gordius's knot again, so he could hear it firsthand. And the courtiers told him. The prince heard this, drew his sword, laughed, and cut the knot in two. Which the Prussians were like, what do you think? And the prince said very matter-of-factly, "Gordius said, 'Do I undo the knot?' Never said, 'Do I to untie the knot?'" And that was the first of many, many, many kingdoms that Alexander the Great captured from the Persians. And he did it without losing a man or shedding a single drop of blood. Because like Gordius before him, he was cunning and he was bold. And he knew the best way to solve a problem was not to face it on its own terms. The ACT Science section wants you to do 40 questions over 6 passages in 35 minutes. It wants you to read those passages and answer those questions. As I said, some people can do that, many people cannot. But to try to do that, you're doing that section on the ACT's terms. Better to do it on your own, right? Better to cut the knot than to untie the knot.